What I feel is that USC right now is the number one college football wild card of the 2025 season. That whether it's playoff, whether it's affecting the Big Ten race at the top by winning the Big Ten, by beating teams who are contending to win the Big Ten, by making it to the Big Ten championship, however that exists in your mind, USC right now with Lincoln Riley, heading into the season, during the offseason, they were sort of considered to be a joke, right? That like they've gotten progressively worse, that yes, while the defense got better last year, the way that they finished games last season was embarrassing against teams like Minnesota or Maryland or Washington or take your pick. And that they're spending all this money, but they can't figure out how to translate that into consistent wins. And then when they do beat a team like LSU to start the season, they blow it by losing and looking like they did on the road. And, you know, Lincoln Riley says funny things to us like, you know, we're like 7 points away from being like 9-0. Like, okay, man. But there is something about USC this year. When I look at who they have left, the obvious flaws on a lot of these teams that they have left, at least flaws as of mid to late September, what they're able to do in terms of generating pop on offense as a complete offense, both through the air and on the ground. I like both of these backs. I like both of these receivers. They're promising at tight end. Jaden Mayava has been the most explosive passing quarterback in America against, you know, Georgia Southern, Purdue, and whoever. I understand all that. I'm not in love with their offensive line, but they've generated those plays in spite of that. We'll see what happens against better defenses. The key here is, who are those better teams on their schedule right now? After watching Notre Dame put forth their defensive effort against Texas A&M, don't know if you DVR'd that. Michigan, I think, still has answers to address or questions to address on offense with what Bryce Underwood's ceiling is. Oregon's better than USC, and that game's in Eugene. That's going to be tough. Iowa may not be able to continue to move the ball against okay teams, let alone USC. They're on their schedule.
Yeah,
Michigan State has a ways to go.
Rutgers this weekend, that could be a little bit dicey.
So what I'm saying is USC could very quietly, without a lot of people paying attention, end up like number 8 in the country by the time that Oregon game comes around.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot winnable on this schedule. I think their run defense needs to get better. And if they're not a complete team after the start of their schedule featuring who they've played, there's a question about USC. They can go in a number of directions. But if we're talking about a team that can win a bunch of games solely based on an explosive offense and maybe a pass rush that's been nice, USC fits that bill in a tumultuous season. And I think that's interesting.
Well, and they're flying under the radar because they haven't really played anybody yet.
Right, totally.
But I came down on the same side, man. I got to be honest with you. I was looking through some of the stats, and like we've been hearing from USC people, oh, you're not talking about USC. You're not talking. What's there been to talk about? They're ranked 25th right now. They haven't played anybody so far, but that has been the case for a number of teams. And when we look across the country and we compare some of those teams to what we've seen out of USC,
yeah,
you know, totally independent of the schedule, just how they performed against the opponents put in front of them, USC has kind of gone above and beyond on a number of different fronts. They're not perfect by any stretch, and I think you gave voice to that, but it jumped out to me as well in looking through and trying to prepare for this episode that there's a lot in front of USC that maybe isn't apparent
right
to the college football public right now. And I know they've been kind of a fun punchline from time to time, and maybe they'll buy out Lincoln Riley. They're not going to buy out Lincoln Riley. It costs too much, but this is a really good team, and they're just starting to become, I think, more of a thing that people are aware of in 2025. Not that USC ever really truly flies under the radar. It's a blue blood.
Right.
But given where they started now, given their competition, it's been easy for them to very quietly eke up into the top 25. And my hunch is that after this weekend, after a couple of the games they've got coming up, they're not going to be a team you can ignore much longer.
So USC has Illinois on the road a week after Illinois has Indiana, okay? USC has Michigan sandwiched between Wisconsin and Washington. Obviously, Michigan is going to pay close attention to USC, but that game's on the road for USC. Notre Dame has USC a week after NC State, and Iowa has USC a week after Oregon, and obviously UCLA is not an issue as they're careening downward, but Oregon has, after Iowa and Minnesota, potentially two defenses that could wear down Oregon physically. They get SC. So situationally, it's not bad. I'm just
okay.
I'm not sleeping on the Trojans right now as somebody who is going to affect things the closer we get to Halloween and beyond.